Welcome everybody to another video from Kazakhstan. Today I'm going to tell you about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the issue of customer service in Kazakhstan. And I think that you will understand why I am sometimes absolutely outraged and why at other times I'm pleasantly surprised. So the best way to tell you about customer service in Kazakhstan is just to give you examples and to tell you stories about my time here. So I have to say that my experiences with customer service have not exactly been positive. One time I was shopping in this big shopping center, this mall behind me, at the local equivalent of Best Buy called Technodome, and I was going there to buy, what did I want? Three things. I wanted a drying rack for my clothes, a fan, and an electric kettle. All three very vital and necessary things for surviving in Kazakhstan. And yeah, it didn't go very well. I bought the things, I paid for it. I think altogether they cost me a little over $100. It was the fan that was the most expensive. The fan, though, was the last model they have in the store, at least that's what they always tell you, and they had to go and get the box for it. So I paid for it. I'm standing there waiting for them to go and get the box, waiting for them to go and get the box. 5 minutes passes. They told me it would be 5 minutes. No box, no sales rep, no explanation. 10 minutes passes, still nothing. And I'm being patient. I'm trying to look around. I didn't want to, complain over nothing, okay? And anyway, 15 minutes passes and I've had it. I'm ready to start asking questions. So I see this woman behind the cash register who is not dressed like a cashier. She has on what I would describe as the attire of a professional businesswoman. So I go up to her and I ask her, "Are you the manager?" And then I remembered that here a manager is anyone who does anything administrative in an office. And I said, "Are you the director?" Because this is the title that the person who is the manager of the store in the American sense will have. And she totally ignores me. And I'm like, I used the respectful pronoun with you. I could have used the other one, but I chose to be respectful. I know I didn't mispronounce it. Director and manager, these are, the words sound very similar. You can't botch them in Russian. So I'm like, she's not listening to me. So I said, "Excuse me, please." Another very easy thing to say, basic Russian stuff. Doesn't look at me at all. And I looked at the cashier who was sitting beside her, who was also not busy. There were no customers in line, no one else there. And I asked the cashier, I said, "Is she the manager or the director?" And the cashier said, "She is the senior cashier." And I said, "Okay, well, maybe I can get some help from the senior cashier." Nothing, though, nothing. And I swear to you, I was waving my hands in her face. I was trying to get in her line of sight. She did not even turn to acknowledge my presence, okay? I was absolutely livid at this point. And I told the cashier, I said, "She's not listening to me. What's wrong with her?" And the cashier just looked down. This nonverbal signal acknowledges that something is wrong, okay? And that they know that they have done something wrong, but they're not going to correct it. And still, the senior cashier, not looking at me, not making eye contact, not trying to explain anything, this kind of thing. So I'm absolutely livid. And I asked them, "Where's the office of the director?" And the cashier gave me some directions. And just instantly, in that moment, a salesperson came from the back to take me to the office of the director. I think maybe they were listening or something. I don't know. Well, I go back and I tell the director, I said, I have a problem. I bought this fan 15 minutes ago and I want to go home. And at this point, we're getting to the limit limits of my Russian knowledge, but I managed to convey this, and he understood it. And I said, the cashier isn't even listening to me. What's wrong with her? And he's totally unfazed by this. This is typical Kazakh Russian man in charge attitude. They don't show that there's anything wrong, okay? No emotions on their face, no placating gestures, just nodding and maybe looking at you, with a calm look on their face. No, I'm sorry, nothing like that. He turns to the salesperson and he says, "What's the problem?" And I understood. She told him, get this, she told him, "We can't print the check." They held me up in the store for 15 minutes because they could not print the receipt. Okay? And I asked him, I said, "Did she say they can't print the check?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "I don't need a check." And he said, "Well, hold on 1 minute." And he went into his office and he started talking to people for 5 minutes. Nothing's happening. So I went down and sat in his office because I was standing outside it. And I just went and sat inside. And he's talking to some accountant or something, and I couldn't follow the whole conversation. But I just eventually said to him, "I don't need a check. I want my fan, I want my kettle, and I want my drying rack, and I want to go home." And he said, "Okay, okay, okay." And only at this point did they start to go and find the box. Okay? So I've wasted all this time, standing there probably 20, 25 minutes now, and they could have found the box in this time. Well, it turns out there wasn't even a box. So we had to sit there and disassemble the fan and put it in 2 giant bags in order for me to get it home with the other stuff that I was carrying. So my total time spent in this store was something like, after purchasing the things, was something like 30 or 40 minutes. And to boot, I had to reassemble the fan when I got home. Terrible customer service in Kazakhstan, and this is totally emblematic of it. A different but related problem can be exemplified by this time that I rented a car. So, I sometimes like to rent a car and drive around. You've seen that in some of my videos. I used to deal with this guy. The car rental industry isn't really well developed here. It's not like a building you can walk up to and they have all the cars sitting out in front. It's more like some guy owns 3 or 4 cars and he rents one of them out to you. And he may have to go and get it. It may not be there when you come. He definitely doesn't have a substitute, or if he does, it's an awful one. And he was awful. I would show up on time every time, even early, to meet him to pick up the car, and he was always late. Always late. One time, I rented from him one time on my own, and then the next time I had my Kazakh friend call him and order the car. Turns out that she got a cheaper price than I did, okay? Big surprise. And then I told him, I said, or he messaged me and said, "Do you want to rent a car this weekend?" Because I had told him, sometime earlier that I was planning on it. And I said, "Yeah, no, that's okay. My Kazakh friend already reserved it for you." And I told him the make and model of the car that she had reserved. 15 minutes later, he messages her and says, "This car is no longer available. It's not working." Well, what a coincidence that, that the foreigner he had quoted the price to at a higher level, was, now that he's involved, the car that was previously available that was cheaper is no longer available. A great example of something that we call the foreigner tax. That is the extra price that's added to any item whose price is negotiable, because you're a foreigner and because they think you have more money, which you probably do. But I hate that. I hated that. And I hated him being late. Hated him being late for me to drop off the car. I hated all the times that I've dealt with this guy where I would go to get one car, and then when I got there, that car wasn't available and I had to get some crappier car. I drove 3 or 4 hours in an SUV with no air conditioning one time because of this guy. I dislike dealing with this. And this is typical. This is typical of any business arrangement where you have to meet with people that I have experienced. is that people will be late. And I'm not a fan of it. So these are the bad things, but there are good things about Kazakhstan and customer service. And ironically, my only good experience of customer service in Kazakhstan is with the government, okay? And it's totally the opposite of what an American might think and what local Kazakh people would think too. They probably get better customer service at the store than they do in dealing with the government. But my experience was different. So a couple months ago, I needed to go to the citizen service office. It's called SON here. It's essentially, if you can imagine, a passport office, which you probably don't have in your city in America, combined with a driver's license bureau, the place that you get your tag, the place that you pay any outstanding taxes, the place that you do registration for any government thing. It's all done in this office. And I needed to go in and get some stuff done so that I could use an application that allows you to enter businesses when they're otherwise closed because of the COVID situation. And I was totally clueless. I walk into this building, people are milling about everywhere. There are signs in Kazakh, sometimes in Russian, more in Kazakh. I had no idea. Admittedly, some colleagues had given me some instructions. I read them, but it's all very overwhelming when you get there in that situation. So I'm rolling up into this citizen service office, and I go up to the help desk and I ask them, where do I need to go to get this thing that I'm trying to get? It's actually an online access pass that they call electronic signature. And he says, the second floor. Now, I understood that. Now, it turns out that in order to get in line to get this thing on the second floor, you needed to get a ticket from a special machine on the first floor. And there was a sign about this, but I either didn't understand it or didn't read it or missed it entirely or whatever. I was clueless, okay, as I often am in my dealings here. And so I go up to the second floor and I guess I look really lost because this guy walks up to me and he asks me, can I help you? And I said, sure. Yes, I need an electronic signature. And he said, where's your ticket? And I said, I don't have a ticket. And he said, okay. And he walked me over to the head of the line, ahead of the some 20 or 30 people waiting, told them to sort of step back, and pulls me through to a desk that has just become open. I sit down, he explains to them what I need. The person, creates this digital pass for me to access my government account here. All this stuff, all told 5 minutes. Afterwards, you need to do some stuff on the computers in this government office in order to activate this pass. I couldn't figure it out. It was complicated. Half of it was in Russian. There were no instructions. The security guard at this place, not an employee tasked with this, the security guard comes over and helps me to activate this electronic signature. So I got help from like 3 different people, none of whom had to help me. The guy could have told me, you've got to go get a ticket, and he didn't. Instead, he pulled me through, and I didn't ask for that, and it's not something I expect to sort of be pushed ahead of the line because I'm a foreigner, but I'm grateful that that happened. And if you want to know why these things happen, here's my 1 or 2 minute analysis of this, because I don't know enough about it, but I have suspicions. So there are 2 things competing here. One of them is a sort of old Soviet mentality, okay? And it's this sort of official, everything has to be done officially, okay? So they, just to give you another example, they won't sell you an item in the store here if the barcode doesn't ring up properly. This is silly, this is ridiculous. You could charge me twice what it's worth and just let me buy it, but they won't do it. But it's just sort of this obsession with doing everything officially that really gets to you sometimes, and that really prohibits them from providing good customer service. I mean, the reason that they needed to print the receipt, that they thought they needed to print the receipt, God knows. I mean, maybe it would be useful to me if I needed to return something or something like this, but I have other ways of proving that I bought the thing. They could have emailed the receipt to me or something, They could have sent it in a text message. There are 1,000 ways they could have solved this without printing the receipt. But that's that mentality, I think, sticking up here, is we have to do everything by the books officially, except when they don't. But the other side of this, and what I think is the redeeming characteristic of Kazakhstan, is perhaps something that's a little less Soviet and a little bit more Kazakh, which is this idea that you're supposed to be hospitable to foreign guests, and that you're supposed to be hospitable in general, not just to foreigners. Hospitality is an important characteristic trait here that, I'm told at least, goes back a long way in Kazakh history. So there's good here, and there's also a lot of bad. There's a lot that needs to be cleaned up. That is a legacy of the Soviet Union. And of course, as we know, everything in Kazakhstan that's bad can be blamed on the Russians. Okay, thanks for watching, and like, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. See you next time.